The heavy barrel of the suppressed pistol pressed into the soft skin beneath my chin, smelling of gun oil and cold ozone. My knees hit the wet asphalt of the alleyway, the grit biting into my jeans as the man in the charcoal suit loomed over me like a shadow cast by the devil himself. Dark, scalding liquid dripped from his silk lapel, a slow rhythmic tap-tap against the concrete that sounded like a ticking clock. "You ruined a $3,000 jacket," he whispered, his voice a low vibration that made the air in my lungs turn to lead. "In my world, blood is the only thing that washes out a stain like that." I looked into his eyes, voids of absolute black, and realized the man I had bumped into outside the café wasn't just a stranger. He was the city's pulse, and I had just made it skip a beat. Before the gun was at my throat, before the black SUV screeched to a halt, blocking both ends of the street, I was just Elara. I was a girl with a mountain of textbooks and a deadline that was eating me alive. I lived in a world of library fines and cold pizza, a world where the biggest danger was failing my finals. But as I stared at the man whose name made judges tremble, I realized my old life had evaporated the second that paper cup slipped from my fingers. I didn't know then that this accident would pull me into a web of ancient blood feuds and high-stakes betrayal. I didn't know that by tomorrow, the police would stop looking for me because they were too afraid of the man who found me first. The morning had been a blur of fluorescent lights and caffeine-induced jitters. I burst through the heavy glass doors of The Roasted Bean, my backpack heavy with 300 pages of research. I didn't see him. He was a wall of expensive wool and quiet authority stepping out of a tinted sedan. The collision was soft, but the result was catastrophic. My extra-large latte erupted, a brown geyser that painted a broad, jagged stripe across his pristine chest. I froze, my hand still reaching for a cup that wasn't there. The two men behind him moved instantly, their hands reaching under their jackets, their eyes scanning the windows above us with surgical precision. I am so sorry," I stammered, my fingers fumbling for a napkin in my pocket. I reached out to blot the liquid, but a hand like a steel vice clamped onto my wrist. The man in the charcoal suit didn't flinch. He looked down at the mess, then back at me. His face was a mask of carved marble. "Don't touch me," he said. The air around us seemed to drop 10 degrees. He signaled to his companions, a slight tilt of his head. One of them stepped forward, a radio buzzing on his belt. The street, which had been bustling seconds ago, suddenly felt empty. Pedestrians crossed the road without looking back. Shopkeepers turned their open signs to closed. They knew what I didn't. "Check her," the man ordered. The taller guard grabbed my bag, dumping my life onto the sidewalk. My laptop skittered across the pavement. My notes fluttered away in the wind. They didn't care. They were looking for something else. A wire, a blade, a reason to end me right there. "She's just a student, boss," the guard muttered, kicking my copy of International Law into the gutter. The man he called boss stepped closer, his shadow swallowing mine. He leaned down, his face inches from mine. I could smell the expensive tobacco and the scent of rain on his skin. He reached out, his thumb tracing the line of my jaw, his touch cold and clinical. "A student," he repeated. "The most dangerous things in this city are the ones that look like they don't belong." He turned to the guard. "Throw her in the car. We have a meeting at the docks and I don't like being late or dirty." The door of the SUV clicked shut, the sound as final as a casket lid. I was sandwiched between two giants who smelled of old leather and spent brass. We moved through the city like a predatory shark through a school of fish, cars veering out of our way as if sensing the lethality behind the tinted glass. We arrived at the industrial district, where the cranes looked like skeletal fingers reaching for the gray sky. They dragged me out, my feet barely touching the ground, and shoved me into the back of a rusted warehouse. "Wait here," the boss said, not looking back as he walked toward a group of men standing by the water's edge. They were all armed. They all bowed as he approached. I looked around the warehouse. Rusted chains hung from the rafters. The floor was stained with things I didn't want to identify. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I saw a small window high up and cracked. If I could reach it, I might have a chance. I dragged a wooden crate toward the wall, the wood splintering under my nails. I climbed up, my fingers catching the ledge, the cold glass cutting into my palms. I pulled myself up, gasping, looking out over the pier. That's when I saw it. The meeting wasn't a business deal. A man was tied to a chair at the end of the dock, a black hood over his head. The boss stood over him, holding a jagged piece of metal that glinted in the dying light. He didn't hesitate. He swung. The chair toppled, and the hooded figure went into the black water without a sound. My foot slipped. The crate crashed over. I hit the floor with a thud that echoed through the hollow building like a gunshot. The heavy metal door at the far end of the warehouse groaned open. The boss stood there, his silhouette framed by the orange glow of the setting sun. He wasn't wearing the charcoal jacket anymore. He was in his shirt sleeves, the white fabric rolled up to reveal forearms covered in intricate dark tattoos of serpents and thorns. He held a heavy, silenced pistol in his right hand. He walked toward me, his pace slow and deliberate, the silence of the warehouse magnifying the sound of his breathing. "You've seen too much, Elara," he said, using my name for the first time. I didn't know how he knew it. My hands shook as I backed away, hitting the cold brick wall. He raised the gun, the muzzle a dark eye staring into my soul. "I told you. Blood is the only thing that washes out a stain. If you believe Elara deserves to survive the man she just accidentally crossed, hit the like button so her story reaches those who know that one mistake can change everything." He didn't pull the trigger. Instead, he grabbed my collar and hauled me toward the water. "Since you like to watch, you're going to help me finish the job." He shoved a heavy cinder block into my arms. It weighed more than my backpack ever had. "Tie it to the rope." I looked at the rope. It led down into the dark, churning water where the hooded man had disappeared. My fingers went numb. I can't." He leaned in, his lips brushing my ear. "Then you'll take his place." I tied the knot. My vision was blurred, the world spinning. As the block splashed into the depths, a black car roared onto the pier, its tires screaming. A man stepped out, holding a phone. "Boss. The Russians. They hit the safe house. They took your sister." The boss froze. The gun lowered. He looked at me, then at his man. A strange, terrifying smile crept across his face. "They want to trade? Fine. They think they took my heart. Let's show them what I'm willing to give up." He grabbed my arm, his grip bruising. "You're not a student anymore, Elara. You're my bait." The SUV tore through the city, the needle on the speedometer climbing into the triple digits. We weren't going to a safe house. We were heading toward the bridge that spanned the dividing line of the city's territories. "Listen to me," the boss said, checking the magazine of his rifle. He didn't look at me. "When the doors open, you walk toward the middle. Don't look back. Don't run. If you move too fast, they'll open fire. If you move too slow, I will." "Why me?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "Because they don't know my sister's face," he said. "And you have the look of someone who's already dead." The bridge was a graveyard of fog and rusted girders. 3 black sedans waited on the far side. A woman was standing in the center, a hood over her head. I stepped out of the car, the wind whipping my hair. Every step felt like walking through deep mud. I reached the center. The woman was inches away. We passed each other. "Now," a voice screamed. The bridge erupted. Muzzle flashes lit up the fog like strobe lights. I hit the deck, the cold metal of the bridge biting into my cheek. Bullets hissed overhead like angry hornets. I saw the boss standing on the roof of his car, his rifle spitting fire. He wasn't hiding. He was a god of war in a white shirt. The woman who had been traded for me suddenly turned. She didn't run toward the boss. She pulled a knife from her sleeve and dove toward me. I rolled, the blade slicing through the shoulder of my jacket. I grabbed a loose piece of rebar from the bridge deck and swung with everything I had. The iron bar caught her in the ribs with a sickening crunch. The boss was suddenly there, kicking the knife away. He didn't look at the woman. He looked at the men on the other side of the bridge, who were now retreating into the fog. He looked down at me, at the rebar in my hand, at the blood on my sleeve. "You've got a steady hand," he said. He reached down and pulled me up. He didn't let go of my hand. "My sister died 3 years ago. I just needed a reason to start a war. If this betrayal made your blood run as cold as mine, leave a like so I know to tell more stories about the games the powerful play with the innocent." He led me back to the car, but we didn't go back to the warehouse. We drove to a high-rise that touched the clouds. The elevator ride was silent. He led me to a room filled with screens, maps and weapons. "The Russians will come for you now," he said, pouring 2 glasses of amber liquid. He handed one to me. My hands finally stopped shaking as I took a sip. It burned, but it felt real. "They saw your face. They think you're my property. In this city, that's a death sentence." "I never asked for this," I said, looking at the city lights below. "I just wanted to finish my degree." "The degree is over," he said. He walked to a safe and pulled out a stack of passports and a heavy black case. "This is your new life. You leave tonight or you stay and help me burn the men who tried to kill us both." I looked at the passports. They were all different names, different countries. Then I looked at the black case. Inside was a compact submachine gun and a silencer. "I'm a law student," I said. "I believe in justice." He laughed, a dark, hollow sound. Justice is a lie we tell people who are too weak to take revenge. Pick one, Elara. The plane or the gun? I reached for the gun. The weight of it was comforting. It felt like the only thing in the world that made sense. Good, he whispered. The Russians are at the front gate. Let's show them what happens when you spill coffee on the wrong man. The hallway was a maze of shadows and silence. I followed him, my boots silent on the carpet. We reached the stairwell. He signaled for me to stay low. 3 men in leather jackets were coming up, suppressed pistols drawn. The boss didn't hesitate. He leaned over the railing and fired. 2 went down instantly. The third ducked behind a door. Flank him, the boss ordered. I moved. I didn't think. I felt like I was back in the library following a complex legal precedent. I kicked the door open and fired a burst. The man slumped over, his weapon clattering to the floor. I stood over him, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. You're a natural, the boss said, stepping over the body. He didn't even look at the man he'd killed. We reached the lobby. It was a war zone. The glass walls had been shattered. 5 more men were waiting. The boss handed me a grenade. Pull the pin. Count to 3. Throw. I did exactly what he said. The explosion was a wall of heat and sound. We moved through the smoke, our weapons clearing the way. We reached his car. Where are we going? I asked as we tore out of the parking garage. To the source, he said. The man who sent them. He's at a private club across town. He thinks he's safe behind his guards and his gold. The club was a temple of excess, velvet, gold leaf, and the smell of expensive perfume. We didn't go through the front. We went through the kitchens. The boss moved like a ghost, snapping necks and clearing rooms with a terrifying efficiency. We reached the top floor. A single door stood between us and the man who wanted us dead. This is it, the boss said. He looked at me, his eyes searching mine. Once we walk through this door, there's no going back. You'll be a murderer in the eyes of the law you love. The law didn't protect me in that alleyway, I said. You did. He nodded. He kicked the door open. The man behind the desk was old, his face a map of greed and cruelty. He didn't look surprised. He looked bored. You're late, Viktor, he said. The boss, Viktor, didn't say a word. He walked to the desk and put his gun down. I'm not here to kill you, Ivan. I'm here to show you my new partner. I stepped forward, the submachine gun leveled at Ivan's heart. A girl? Ivan sneered. This is your secret weapon? She's the one who took out your bridge team, Viktor said. She's the one who cleared the lobby. And she's the one who's going to sign the transfer papers for your territory. Ivan laughed. And if I refuse? Viktor looked at me. Elara? I didn't hesitate. I shifted my aim and fired a single shot into the priceless painting behind Ivan's head. The canvas shredded, gold leaf fluttering like snow. The next one goes between your eyes, I said. My voice was steady. It was the voice of a woman who had found her power in the dark. Ivan's laughter died. He reached for a pen. If you think Elara chose the right path to survive a city that wanted to eat her alive, drop a like so the algorithm knows the story matters. The papers were signed in blood. We walked out of the club as the sun began to peek over the horizon, painting the city in shades of bruised purple and gold. We stood on the sidewalk, the city waking up around us. People were heading to work. Delivery trucks were making their rounds. They had no idea that the world had changed while they slept. Viktor looked at me. He looked tired. You can go now, he said. He handed me a bag filled with cash and a passport. The plane leaves in 2 hours. You can go to London. Finish your degree. Be a lawyer. Forget any of this happened. I looked at the bag. Then I looked at the city. I looked at my hands, which were stained with more than just coffee now. I thought about the library, the quiet nights, the predictable future. It felt like a dream from a different life. I can't go back, I said. You can, he insisted. I'm giving you a way out. This life, it never ends. It just gets darker. I don't want a way out, I said. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my student ID. I dropped it into the sewer grate. I watched it disappear into the black water just like the man on the dock. I want to know what happens next. Viktor stared at me for a long time. The hardness in his eyes cracked just for a second. He reached out and touched the bruise on my jaw. Then you stay by my side. But know this, the coffee was the last accident you'll ever have. We walked toward his car, the two of us against a city that didn't know we were coming. I looked back one last time at the coffee shop where it had all started. The open sign was being turned. A girl who looked just like I used to was walking in, her nose in a book. I didn't feel sorry for her. I just felt awake. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about the hidden lives of those who walk among us, and the accidents that turn students into legends.